Or just not well.
Yeah. It's definitely wet.
It's on the way.
That's water are we talking about, John?
Huh?
Make it a little shorter. Friends, it's Ben and John with my smart team at Exit Realty First. Today we're having a conversation that we hope treats you well, or helps you get well in the head, or gets your well head figured out. So the conversation we're having today is, I think, something you should know before you buy a house in the country. If you buy a house that isn't being supplied with community water, you are on a well system. A well system has several components. We'll talk about that in another video. One huge differentiating factor for a well is whether it's a deep well or a shallow well. And like you said, a deep well is more than 25 feet. Shallow well, less than 25 feet. For a deep well, the systems are just different, right? So when you're drawing water from less than 25 feet under the ground, you don't have a lot of room to put that well pump in.
Right. So one of the other things about that too is a shallow well sucks the water from the ground because it's in the house or in a well shed or something like that.
Right.
It's not in the ground. Where a deep well pushes the water. It's easier to push water than it is to pull or suck the water up out of the system. So good point.
Yeah. Water's better if it's not sucking. So. Well, could I whet your appetite with a few more fun facts about wells? So there are a few different things that are impacted when you have a deep well versus a shallow well. And those things are your water pressure, because normally a shallow well has an older pump system, which means it has a lower pump switch. So the switch of a well system tells the pump when to turn on and when to turn off, so that you have a consistent water pressure. There's a few more systems all at play here, but shallow well, because it's an older pump system, the pump switch supplies weaker water pressure. You can have lower water pressure if you have a shallow pump system. The second thing that's impacted, so water pressure is the first. Second thing that's impacted is the purity, because you know this, John, you may not, person on the other side of this screen. You, in a shallow well system, it is drawing water from aquifers, pockets of water underneath the ground that are being impacted by several different things. Runoff from farms, or if you're in a mountainous area, runoff from mountains or just hills and that kind of thing. And they're being collected in these aquifers. So you can have water that has trace amounts. It's being filtered as it goes through the soil, but can have trace amounts of chemicals or waste or pesticides and that kind of thing from farms. And being in an area that's not like Indiana, that's 98% farmland with Fort Wayne and Indianapolis and kind of breaking up the farmland. Right. Well, you have farmland still that's impacting the quality of the water that you're drawing. So if you want really good quality water, a deep well is the way to go. The final thing that can be impacted when you have a shallow well versus a deep well is if we're having a super dry year. Now, we live in Michigan. We're very fortunate to have an abundance of water in Michigan. Do you know how many lakes we have in Michigan?
I have no idea.
I think it's like 80 or 90.
We have way more than that.
Maybe that's in Jackson County alone.
I was going to say that's got to be Jackson County.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a ridiculous number of lakes in Michigan. So we have an abundance of water. But even still, if we had a drought, that would impact the amount and quality of water in a shallow well system, not in a deep well system. Because deep wells are drawing from aquifers that are not impacted by runoff, that are not impacted by drought, because the water is so far down in the ground. So you have pure, high pressure, good water when you have a deep well system.
Right. Yeah,
But-
it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
In the water quality, the pressure.
Yeah.
And the sustainability or the availability.
Yeah,
of the
dependability
water.
maybe.
Yeah, dependability.
Yeah,
Good word.
of the water. So if you're buying a house in the country, when you walk through the house with us, you need to check for one thing. You need to check to see if there is an external pump in a utility room or in a well house or anything like that, or if instead there is a well head in the yard. We'll show you what a wellhead looks like, an example of a wellhead, because some are made out of PVC, some are made out of cast iron or metal. So they look a little bit different.
One other thing to keep in mind on a deep well is that the head is secured and that there's a adequate screen on it to keep bugs out.
Right.
So
This has been a fun conversation.
well, I think it has.
Yeah. I think we will have better, weller conversations in the future about this water system. In the meantime, we hope life is treating you well, that life is really, flowing. And hey, before we let you go, we would love to know, are you on a well or do you have city water sewer? And if you're on a well, is it shallow or is it deep, or do you not know? We would love to hear that in the comments below. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Take care.